Interesting, Gab, isn't it? I think at the start of the game, if you'd offered into 1-1, they would have said, no, we want 3 points. By the end of it, though, a point they'd be more than happy with.
Yeah, clearly, given the way the game went, given the way Atalanta, as they so often do, seemed to get stronger as the game went on, and Inter seemed to get weaker. And we've seen this before. Something Conte touched on after the game, pointing out that he was missing 4 players, which is a bit of a stretch because obviously he's including Alexis Sanchez in there. But certainly he's talking about Vecino. Barella, I think, would have definitely made a difference in a game like that, just allowing Inter to maintain that intensity in the second half. And obviously Skriniar at the back might have had the experience not to give away the penalty that Bastoni gave away, though Bastoni, until that point, I thought it played really well.
It's concerning for Inter, isn't it?
Not really, because that's kind of what they do and what they're all about. I mean, they would maybe not play as poorly as that, but I think if we'd said before, and we did talk about it before, leading up to this game, don't expect Inter to be dominating the game. But there's a frustration there that when they get off to the kind of start that they did, with the link up from the front two, and as Stevie said, there was a mistake, but then you've got Martinez with another great finish, and you think, right, they're going to kick on, they're going to get a stranglehold in this game, they're going to dominate them, they're going to suffocate them, and they're going to get the second goal, and then they're going to defend and kill the game off. But as Gab said, they just allowed Atalanta to get back in the game. They took control of the game. They controlled the tempo of the game. And as the second half went on, Inter hardly created anything. Hardly created anything. You had Gomez in the middle of the park running about, making stuff happen. You got Ilicic was coming off the right side on the left foot, always looked dangerous. The penalty obviously was a huge bonus for them that Handanovic saved it. But it's kind of what Inter do. And also what he does, he always talks about who he's not got. Every game.
Yeah.
I've not got him and I've not got... As if any other manager hasn't not got players. So he had a good side out. He had some problems in the defensive side of the unit, which are well documented. But they played in a kind of Inter under Conte way, which is not very entertaining and not as well as Atalanta, but they got a point.
As Craig says, Steve, you're the perfect start. You're 4-0 up. 4-0 up. You're 1-0 up after 4 minutes. You've got the home crowd behind you. You think, right, this is perfect. Why didn't they then take control of the game? Why didn't they suffocate the opposition?
Because they couldn't keep the ball long enough. For me, Atalanta, particularly in the first half, this was a side that I thought would come out and play open, attractive football, but they sat, and all they did was let Inter Milan dominate and get the ball. But they kept trying to give it back to Atalanta. And Atalanta kept giving it back to them. But it wasn't until the second half something happened and they realised that, you know what, this team actually is there for the taking.
Yeah.
And then they stepped it up. But the first half, Inter, possession-wise, I thought they were horrible. And for me, Atalanta have missed an opportunity.
Well, what about the penalty, the call? The non-call?
In the first half, yeah.
I mean, it was a rugby tackle.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, it was a little bit blindsided, and it might have been difficult to see. Some of the angles were not great, but there was a couple of angles where, or at least one where, you could clearly see the arm comes out and there's a little tackle on the heel. Now, some people
and that's not allowed, is it?
Well, and not in that sport.
No.
As if you're playing rugby in Italy, you're allowed to do it. And as the player was just about to toe poke it into the net, his ankle was tapped from behind. Now, you can say, well, there wasn't much contact. It's an infringement of the rules.
Yeah. How did he miss it?
And Gasparini, the coach, we was talking about it after the game, saying it shouldn't happen. It shouldn't happen in this day and age of VAR.
Go on, Gab.
No, look, I take Gasparini's point, I take Craig's point. But then again, Gasparini's also likes to have a whinge whenever things don't go his way. And the reality is he should just be talking up his team. And which, to be fair, he did, because Atalanta, once again, and they often do this against the bigger sides, both we saw it at Man City, we saw it against Juventus, we saw it against Lazio. Atalanta dominated. And, even if they don't get that penalty, they still... there was still the Handanovic penalty save. There was still the Malinovsky hitting the woodwork. They still took the game to them, and I think, while we can all point out Inter's flaws, I think we really ought to give a lot of credit to Atalanta for not perhaps going out all guns blazing in the first half, and then taking over in the second half when Inter.
So I cannot complain about that. It's a risk, and these things can happen. What a disaster, Gab.
Yeah, it is, and it's just going to turn the screws on Gattuso even more. I mean, there's been more negative stories coming out during the week about the players unhappy with the president, De Laurentiis, about the way the arbitration's going. Going back to the fines and the legal case with the when they had their little mini revolt, mini mutiny. This with Gattuso is very much what Gattuso does. He says, guys, blame me. In the original in Italian, he went even further. He said, that goal isn't Ospina's fault. It's my fault because I tell him to do that. And you guys just remember the one mistake. You don't remember the other 20 times where we managed to break the press precisely because he plays the ball out from the back. So if you're going to blame anybody, blame me. But it is very much a body blow. But Lazio have been getting these breaks. And guys, they have a game in hand. And depending how things go tomorrow night, they could well be right there, breathing on the back of Juve and Inter's necks.
Cagliari 0, Milan 2. I got a few balls wrong at the start of the game, but I need a few matches to get into shape. Zlatan on his first start. Meanwhile, this is what Pioli had to say. This was certainly a different performance to recent outings. We were more effective, more solid. Zlatan's presence clearly gives us a reference point to build around. You said he wasn't going to score, didn't you?
Sorry?
This week?
Who?
Zlatan.
I never said that at all.
What did you say?
I never said he wasn't going to score. The question was, will he get 8 or less or 10 or less?
8, I think we drew the line at, yeah.
No, I never said he wasn't going to score.
He's looking good for 8 now.
Well, don't change the subject.
What?
No, just because you got the wrong person. Hey?
Was it you said he wasn't going to score?
Oh, who cares?
That would be a yes.
I think the interesting thing is the manager saying it's a reference point. It's something to build around in terms of somebody up there who can bring other people into play, who can hold the ball up, isn't going to chase around like a headless chicken. 1, because he's 38, and 2, because, well, that's not his game, and 3, because, as Zlatan said himself, coming off MLS playoffs, he's had a break, he's not match fit, but he's still fit enough that he can start for AC Milan in Serie A and do a job, and is only going to get better. So, I mean, at 38 years old, he's going to be a very good addition to that side, and boy, did they need that.
Finally, Gab, something for AC Milan fans to smile about.
Yeah, look, Ibrahimovic is obviously a short-term solution, but he addresses what they needed most. First of all, if Ibrahimovic is there, Piontek isn't there, which certainly means that they become more clinical. But, amidst all the negativity, in some ways, Ibra is an opportunity to go and talk about something else, right? The focus shifts to Ibra, and it allows the rest of the team to grow. And again, I may be the only one saying this, but when you look at Benacer, when you look at Kessié, when you look at Romagnoli, Theo Hernandez, obviously Gigio Donnarumma, maybe Rafael Leao one day, there is actually a fair amount of talent on this team. They just got to get the other bits right.
Sums up quite nicely, didn't they? They weren't really at their best today either, were they? They just get it done.
Well, I mean, they were pretty good for a good hour or so. They're just an unbelievably well-oiled machine at the moment. Just go from one away game to a home game to a travel to whatever, just to getting results. And okay, the last 20 minutes it was a bit hairy for them, and it was kind of they switched off. But they're just by far and away at the moment, and they'll have to prove it, but the best team in Europe.
Not going to argue with that.
Oh, you'd be an idiot if you did.
Do you know what? Something struck me today that when I was playing in a Liverpool side that was all about possession, if somebody tried to put a ball in behind and give it away, a lot of the times the older guys would get on you and say, hold on, no, keep the ball, keep the ball. This Liverpool side, it doesn't matter whether it's the first minute or the last minute, will put balls in behind from anywhere. And every single one of the front guys expects it, and you can see them going before it's even played. That's unusual, because particularly in a game like this, where you're 1-0 up, you should be further ahead. That should be the time to change something. And Liverpool don't. Now, maybe if they're going to have a hiccup, maybe that's where it is. Because at 1-0, it looked like they were going to lose a goal. I thought they were going to lose a goal, and I was shocked that the Celso never scored. But if there's anything that goes against them, that's it.
I mean, it was one point in the first half. It was. I know they didn't have Harry Kane, but they had a very attacking lineup out. Actually, Spurs didn't seem that way, but they had a lot of attacking players. But they just could not get out of their own half.
Yeah.
There was one point during the first half that Dele Alli got on the ball and literally half volleyed it.
He booted it, and it was
Up into the left wing position, and there was no Spurs player within 30 or 40 yards of getting there. And I think there was just a sense of frustration that there was more, and there is more to come from this Spurs team. Not that they were good enough to compete with Liverpool, but they were better than we saw for 70 minutes today. Sure.
How do we sum up Spurs today?
They were absolutely awful on the ball for 70 minutes until he decided with 20 minutes to go, right, let's just kind of open it up a wee bit here.
Right.
After the final 20 minutes, they actually looked like
Why
Spurs.
didn't he do that earlier?
Well, because he doesn't do that. The problem when you're playing against this Liverpool team is if you open up early, you can lose 5 or 6. So he doesn't, and we know he's not going to do that.
Right.
But even saying that, when they did get the ball in that first 70 minutes, they were terrible on it. Yes, Liverpool closes you down quickly, but some of their passing was absolutely abysmal. And so a combination of Liverpool pressing them, plus them just not being able to pass to each other, which is why they were just overrun for 70 minutes.
They were terrible on today. They were terrible on the ball against Chelsea at home. They were terrible on the ball at Wolves away, but I can't remember if it was a win or a draw, but got a result. And were booting the ball up the field to Harry Kane early on. You'll be able to sell that to an extent when you're playing Liverpool. Say, well, you know, we're not at that level at the moment. There's a stretch to say we can compete with them. So, but you won't get away with that against the others in the Premier League on a regular basis, because the crowd will turn, the players will turn. And I'm not saying Mourinho's. I'm not saying like he's trying to throw players under the bus or anything like that. But players will soon get fed up with that. I mean, I saw before Harry Kane got injured, I saw his face that day at that game at Wolves, because he was feeding on scraps, and I could sense the frustration of the changing style of play. And you know, players that are used to playing that way will accept it. But players that are used to passing the ball,
they'll start questioning him.
They'll get fed up.
They'll
quickly.
start questioning him.
Right.
You know, they'll find themselves in a comfortable position because it's doubtful that they'll get in the top 4 the way they're playing. So eventually the senior guys are going to go, well, hold on a second, who is this guy? This was the guy that was meant to come in and get us back to where we were under Pochettino when we were doing well.
Sure.
But we're actually not any better from the minute he's walked in the door. Because right now, if you stuck Pochettino on the bench, you wouldn't tell the difference between this side and Mourinho's side.
Mourinho took aim at the officials after the game. This is what he had to say about that Robertson challenge. They were lucky they could perfectly finish the game with 10 because the VAR at that time, they were having a tea and they didn't want Robertson for a red card.
He's back. Mr. Deflecto.
Well,
Captain Deflecto.
Yeah, Captain Deflecto.
Is back
we
at his
heard what
best.
Stevie said. Craig,
Well,
what do you think?
on that angle, it does seem, and people seem to have a problem with this. There's no doubt that the touch got away from Andrew Robertson. There's no doubt about that. He then had to stretch himself, but he stretched himself and got there before the Spurs player and won the ball. And then there was a contact. Now, you will have some people out there who really have no idea.
Well, people are screaming, going, and we'll show it later on, won't we? The Aubameyang red card.
Well,
and people say, what's the difference?
But the difference is that he's nowhere near the ball's not even in the frame, and the ankle goes over. the bottom line here is, and I always say this to people, is the one objective of a defender or a player trying to win the ball is to play the ball. Right? Now, there's always going to be an element of force and aggression within any challenge. And a player's momentum, particularly one as quick as Robertson, you can't stop yourself going through. And you're more likely to get injured if you pull out of a challenge like that. So the difference is he attempted to win the ball, albeit at a stretch, and did.
Right.
The difference with Aubameyang is he attempted to win the ball, was nowhere near it, and completely cleaned the player out. So therefore, he's got no defence. Am I right or wrong?
You're absolutely. The only reason Taranga gets caught is because he's late.
Right.
So how is it Robertson's fault when he gets to the ball slightly before Taranga? So how can he turn around and say that this is Robertson's fault? Taranga 100%. It's his number one. It's his own fault he got caught. He's late, and it's got nothing to do with Andy Robertson.
Right, but I won the ball. I won the ball, boss. Yeah, but listen, you went in a little bit too hard to win that ball. So can you just temper it the next time, because somebody may get injured.
Jose says
This is, after all, still a contact sport, I believe. One that's been scaled back mightily over the years, but it is still a contact sport, and it's still an occupational hazard, unfortunately, that people do get injured. And you take the aggression out of it, and you take away the game and everything it's about. It was a zealous challenge, but it was one that was rightfully he took. He won it. It was a stretch, and it's no big issue unless you're a do-gooder,
right?
That thinks everybody who should make a challenge
you're deflecting.
Should be putting a warning sign up.
Yeah, well, you're deflecting another defeat.
No, I saw other people saying that should have been a red card as well. To be fair.
You would be a very, very brave person to put up any sort of argument as to why Liverpool won't win. What?
No, they've played Leicester.
Oh, yeah, that's it. 16 points compared to 4 in France, 2 in Germany, 1 in Italy, and of course it's level in Spain. It is over. Liverpool will be the Premier League champions this year. Just Palace 1, Arsenal 1. The spoils shared then at Selhurst Park. Overall, the rhetoric would certainly come out of Arsenal was like good 30 minutes and then the rest pretty much disappointing. Is that fair?
Yeah. I mean, are we surprised? You know, I hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, you can see the difference since Arteta's gone." I mean, really? You're talking the game
since Emery's gone.
Emery. Yeah, the game lasts 90 minutes, by the way.
Yes, it
so
does.
to play well for 30 minutes is there's a bit of a problem there. You've got another hour to go, and if people think there's such a huge difference, is this a good result? Is going to Crystal Palace, who have got a horrendous injury list, and getting a point a good result if you're Arsenal? I don't think so. Unless, of course, you think Arsenal are a middle-tier team that are just there to make the numbers up.
It's a sad indictment, though, when winning the ball back all of a sudden becomes something to cheer.
Yeah.
As if it shouldn't have been happening before, but it clearly was happening a little bit better for them. A little unfortunate. The Torreira injury was big for them. I think going off was a big part of one of the reasons why the game changed for them, because him and Shaka are a better partnership than Guendouzi when he came on. And then the red card, obviously, which I shake my head constantly when I hear people say, well, was it clear and obvious? I mean, I've ever heard so much utter nonsense in all my life. Just because the referee couldn't see it from the middle of the park, because that's where his position was, almost in the centre circle, so he's looking a good 40 yards across at full speed, then just because he misses that doesn't mean it's not clear and obvious.
Yeah.
The fact that you saw one replay and then we all just, for all those that watched it, went, wow,
yeah,
that's it. Straight away. And again, we go back to this Stockley Park taking a minute and a half.
It was over 2 minutes.
When the referee I'll tell you what, and I said it, that referee there, had he walked 5 yards to the monitor by the dugout, the first replay that everybody got would have been like,
right, that's it.
Off you pop, son. Arsenal fans themselves were not complaining.
Chelsea dismissing Burnley 3-0. Out of those two games, boys, which one should we talk about?
How about Chelsea? Struggling at home recently. And if there's one thing that Frank Lampard will be thinking after this game is, please, can we play Burnley at home every week?
Yeah.
Because up until the penalty, it was beginning to creep in. They didn't really look, Chelsea, as though they were going to figure a way out of breaking through Burnley. But Burnley, right on time, kind of the way they've been going this season. The rock that they were built on, that defence, just disappeared.
And I think from United's perspective, on the other side, we've been highly critical of them, their management, the ownership. And they did have the bottom team in the league today in Norwich, who, as you mentioned at some point during the show, look as if they're doomed. The positives for United, and something for fans to hang on to, are, Wan-Bissaka, still a bit raw, but he's got a future. Young Williams on the other side. Rashford getting his head down and doing the business for them. And young Greenwood, who's had some game time and has shown that he has a potential future, longer term on the big stage, for whoever the new manager eventually will be, because there will be at some point. And I think that's something for United fans to hang on to. The fact that they have got some of these kids that are quite exciting, and amongst a squad that I think is universally known is not good enough.
Just a word on Rashford, obviously 2 goals today, his 200th game. When does it come to a point where maybe his head will start to get turned? Obviously a big Manchester United fan, grew up supporting them.
I don't think so.
Ingrained in the club.
I don't think his head will turn.
No?
Listen, if he can do what he's doing right now, playing with the team that he's playing with, clearly he's got his head down. Clearly his head is in the right place.
But isn't there a part of you that thinks, I could go and play Champions League football somewhere, I could win trophies somewhere?
Well, I think what you're seeing from him on the field right now tells you that at this time it's not happening, and I would be surprised if it did happen.
I was listening to Solskjaer on the radio actually on the way in today after the game, and he said he was, and the tone of his answer about Rashford would be he's not concerned.
Right.
And I think, listening to him talking about him, I think there are way more concerns at the club. I think he's a young lad, unlike, say, the Lingards of this world and 1 or 2 others, who the head's not turned quite so easy. And when he does have a great game and scores some great goals, and we've seen him do it for England recently as well, is that he isn't carried away. And Solskjaer was saying, in fairness to him, all he wants to do is move on to the next game and do it again and do it better. So he seems to be quite a grounded young man with a hell of a lot of talent, I dare say.
More Premier League action, of course, tomorrow. Aston Villa taking on the defending champions Manchester City, and we'll be discussing that on the next show. Plenty of rumours, of course, doing the rounds at the moment. For all the latest, be sure to check out Transfer Talk over on the website. Of course, we saw this week Van der Beek heavily linked to a move to Manchester United. This is what the Ajax midfielder had to say. I can't do much about the rumours. It's not important. I've said many times before that I will remain at Ajax this season and maybe next season too. Manchester United, I said I will stay at Ajax, and that's what I will do. So that's the end of that one. Meanwhile, Gedson Fernandes, heavily linked to a move to Spurs. It's a 21-year-old who plays for Benfica. Gab, who is he?
Well, look, I'll forgive you for asking, because 18 months ago he had yet to make his first team debut for Benfica. He played some last season. This season, I think he only has like 9 appearances. He's also had a few physical issues. And he only turned 21 last week, remember, but he's a central midfielder.
Times before that I'll remain at Ajax this season and maybe next season too. Manchester United, I said I'll stay at Ajax, and that's what I will do. Meanwhile, Gedson Fernandes linked to a move to Tottenham Hotspur. Gab Marcotti, who is he?
Well, look, I'll forgive you for asking, Dan, because until 18 months ago, he hadn't made his debut. He only turned 21 last week. Has 2 caps for Portugal. Was kind of in and out of the side a little bit last year. This year been slowed. I think he only has, I think maybe 10 or 12 appearances for the Benfica first team. But it's not just Spurs. He's been linked with just about, half a dozen teams in the Premier League, including Manchester United and West Ham, teams throughout Europe, really. This is what happens. We've been here before. Benfica produce a young player, and immediately the network kicks into gear, and he's been linked. He's been linked everywhere. But Mourinho's spoken about needing some help.
Sorry. Gab, there were suggestions that maybe this is a move that could happen in the summer, but from what we're hearing and all the noise and some of the reports now coming out of Spain, this could happen as soon as this week.
Dan, this is pretty extraordinary. So Barcelona's high command, they meet in secret, and they decide that it would be a good idea to go and speak to Xavi. And so Eric Abidal, the sporting director, and Oscar Grau, the chief executive, they get on a plane and they fly all the way to Doha in Qatar, where, of course, Xavi's working. They kind of get caught in the act out there, and they say, no, well, we just dropped in on Xavi, but we're really here to go and see Ousmane Dembele, who, of course, is injured and getting treatment there, because, of course, it's entirely normal for a chief executive to go visit an injured player halfway around the world. Now the cat's out of the bag. Lots of rumors saying that Barcelona are ready to offer the job right now to Xavi. Valverde, whichever way you think of him, and I'm certainly not his biggest fan, you can understand why he would be extremely annoyed. The club are walking it back. It is true that Xavi and Bartomeu haven't really seen eye to eye. Xavi was seen as somebody who's much more in the Laporta camp. But this would be absolutely extraordinary U-turn if they do this right now in the middle of the season.
Meanwhile, Gab, big game tomorrow in Italy, Roma taking on Juventus. What sort of match are you expecting?
Well, it'll be curious to see how Juve line up. Obviously, they had success with Ramsey in the hole behind the strikers. Roma, I think, they were very, very unlucky last weekend in the way things panned out against Torino. There's still, though, a good vibe around them, good vibe around Fonseca. With Inter drawing, the stakes are very, very high here, because you could have a situation where a Roma win would mean Inter kind of float to the top of the table by inertia.
Thank you very much, Gab. Just a reminder, the Welsh derby tomorrow.
I mean, that was a quality strike.
I like the commentary as well.
So he's pulled that from absolutely nowhere. May get him a move.
Do you think so? Maybe.
May
Who
get him a
knows?
move.
Well, bear in mind he's got no quality, as you said.
That's it. Thank you very much, Craig and
Well, they wouldn't be
Stevie.
playing there, would they?
More from us tomorrow, of course. Until then, goodbye. Welcome into Extra Time. Stevie's already talking about dinner. Mince, turnips and peas, is that it?
Yeah, well, unless there's some in the freezer, I might not be having turnip tonight.
Oh, no turnip. How will we survive?
Disappointing.
With Craig getting sick and Stevie being itchy, is there some kind of virus in the studio? You're gonna see the doctor about this itch?
I am, yeah. I can't get rid of it.
Well, let's keep us updated.
Well, maybe it was something to do with Robbo. When he
I thought
banged
you were
his
going to say
head,
his diet.
when he banged his head on the crane,
Yeah.
and he spilt a lot of blood, he may have left some
Some virus.
some sort of
Oh, lovely. That's something to...
something hanging around the studio.
No,
Where is this itch? I don't want to know. I'm sorry.
So you start. I was fine until you mentioned it.
Right.
Have you tried rubbing turnip on it?
Yeah.
Instead of eating it.
Just mince. Stevie, is it time to break out the pies?
Oh, by the way, there was a shepherd's pie and the calf Friday. Yesterday.
You won't like
Is
it.
there any corn in it?
I had it.
I'm going to say there was corn in
I
it.
had it in your memory.
Your memory.
Was
Let
it
me just
sweet?
say,
How was it?
I was okay with it. It had a little twang, little taste to it.
You wouldn't like it.
No,
Corn.
No.
The corn.
Steve, is it time to break out the pies? Or is it not over yet? 16 points.
I mean, it's over, isn't it?
It's over.
16 with game in hand, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Should we ask Gab or what not? Gab?
Gab.
Surely.
Never know until the show.
Surely, Gab.
Well, City play on Sunday, right?
Yes.
So it might not be 16.
Oh.
All right.
Would Steve, this is a good question. Would Stevie trade the potential Liverpool Premier League title for Scotland to win the World Cup?
I think I know
Probably
that.
not.
I was going to say the
No.
answer would be
No.
Why not?
Well, why?
Because Scotland
What do
will,
you mean, why not? Why?
Scotland will never win the World Cup. Liverpool might win the league one day again. Probably will down the road.
Yeah, but I'm not willing to sacrifice that.
So
Because I know they're not. I know
Liverpool for you is more important than Scotland.
I never said that. You did.
But that's exactly.
I'm just asking a question, a hypothetical question.
Yes.
It doesn't mean my allegiance is bigger one way or the other.
Of course it does.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
I'm bigger than my dad's bigger than your dad, man. No, he's not.
We're just going to sit here and.
But the fact
argue.
you're saying that you would prefer Liverpool to win the Premier League than Scotland to win the World Cup
It's not.
shows that
It's
you
a
prefer-
hypothetical question, but it's beyond the realms of possibility.
But why not
is
just
what
play the hypothetical game?
Well, if Jurgen Klinsmann can take the US to the Final Four, as he said. Oh, all right, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
By the way, I'm trying to picture the Scotland team that goes to the final of this
well,
World Cup.
who knows?
and wins.
Somehow they get there.
I'm trying to
and
picture
then
how
they-
this.
And then they ask Stevie at the final, what would you prefer?
What would you prefer?
And he says Liverpool.
Premier League title.
And that's it. What would you prefer? Oh, you don't care.
Yeah, he's not bothered.
You're not bothered.
You're not bothered, are you?
Well, what about Liverpool?
No, you're just not bothered.
Correct.
What is the point of VAR if they don't check the nasty challenge from Robertson towards Tanganga? Should Robertson have been sent off? We heard the boys obviously during the show saying, no, there's no way he should have got red. Gab, what do you think?
The point of VAR, and VAR does check, they checked it, and they said, ooh, do we see a clear and obvious error here? Nah, we don't. They probably also spoke to the referee and said, hey, referee, did you get a clear view of it? Oh, yes, I did. And that's
it a red card for you,
That's
Gab?
the reality. It's a classic could have been given thing. I'm going to defer to the guys in the studio, but it doesn't bug me that it wasn't given.
Not red in a million years.
Not red?
Well, people, but see, there's a misconception. It seems to be still a misconception now about VAR or not checking things. Obviously, VAR can't overturn a simple free kick unless it's in the box and it's a penalty. But for any dangerous tackle that's been missed, or potential red card that's been missed, or any violent conduct, it's spilling all the time. So yeah.
Another good question for you, Stevie. Hypothetical once again.
Hypothetical,
Yes,
ooh.
and you'll say different era, blah, blah, blah. Would these boys beat Stevie's best Liverpool side?
Listen, you always think you.
It's a different
It really
game.
is. It's an impossible question because it's a completely different way of playing.
Right.
It's a completely different way of playing. And they couldn't. This team probably couldn't deal with the things that we dealt with.
Like what?
Like playing with a cabbage ball.
Right.
You couldn't. There's no way Alexander-Arnold, right, could have gone to West Brom, say, in the middle 80s, with a ball clearly they used because it wasn't particularly good to put us off.
Yeah.
The grass wasn't particularly great if there was any on it. So Alexander-Arnold ain't pinging balls from right back 65 yards without even really trying that hard. So it's a completely different game. Alexander-Arnold is a good example. He would have had to do an 100% more defending,
Right.
which is not his best attribute.
Whilst
He would have struggled.
whilst trying to fend off the sausage, egg and chips that he had before the game.
Well, and by the way,
Which is
there's
also
no
which he
way-
doesn't have to do these days.
There's no way this team would have survived on the on the liquid.
How would
and
they have
the-
gone at a Liverpool Christmas party?
Oh, no chance. What? They would have been carried out in a stretcher before it had started.
Can we?
Honestly, I've got to tell you. Was it me and you or was it me and Shaka? We sat here the other day talking about this, right? And we figured that on average, our team probably had 40 pints ahead, a man, a week more than what these guys have.
You had 40 pints a week.
I would guess
Not more.
more than what these guys would have. We figured it
Individually?
Well, we're talking. Well, if we played on a Friday night, the old games that started on a Friday night.
Definitely, Shaka,
Right.
you had this conversation.
So we'd be at Friday night.
Friday night, and what, 6, 7 pints?
Aye. Saturday,
Yeah. So we're at 14.
Sunday.
Yeah, 21.
I played the pool team on a Tuesday,
Of course you did. 28.
and then I might have gone out for some tea with the wife No, just to keep her happy on a Wednesday. Have like 5 or 6 pints.
She ate, he didn't. Just to keep her happy.
Well, you're probably looking at about 40 pints.
When did you get ever home?
Well, it wasn't a normal week, but it happened on occasion.
Sounds pretty normal.
Yeah, exactly. It sounds pretty normal.
What do you think would have held them back most? The ball, the field, or the 40 pints?
No, I think the lifestyle.
Yeah?
Yeah. We talked about that.
Yeah,
on
we
the
talked
show.
about it before, yeah.
If you take him from the 80s and me from the 90s, that was not, and before that, but that was normal.
Yeah.
I was saying that was normal. Yeah. And not that it was right or wrong, because nowadays...
Were you smoking as well, Stevie?
Aye.
Wow.
See, nowadays it's wrong, and even though you can look back now and say, what, it didn't, nobody says, in those days people weren't saying, that's wrong.
Yeah.
It was the culture.
Aye.
It was a culture, and clearly it inhabited some of the things that you could and couldn't do. They just don't do it these days. Gap?
Yeah, Gap.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, Craig nailed it, but the best illustration, and Sir Alex Ferguson talked about this all the time, about the drinking culture and how, in his opinion, there were some people who could handle it. He talked about how Brian Robson would show up after these sort of tremendous nights out, and he would just, basically run 20 laps and, as he put it, sweat it all out. But a lot of other players simply couldn't, and it affected them very badly. And of course, that's why he ended up culling a lot of his best players on his first United team, because they couldn't handle it. And maybe those guys in the late 80s, a generation before, could have felt that they handled it as well. But certainly, even by that point, even 30 years ago in the late, or 40 years ago, 30 years ago, in the late 80s, there came a time when it was just too much and the game had already changed, and a lot of people simply couldn't do that and also produce at the weekend.
Gab, can we consider Jose as elite manager anymore? His defensive football philosophy doesn't seem to suit any club which is looking to challenge for titles. Is he gradually becoming a dinosaur in comparison to other active managers?
Well, look, I mean, when people talk about defensive football, I agree. I'm the first to say it, that everybody out there tries to play a more proactive game. But I think Mourinho realizes that. And I think, you look at the lineup he put out today, you wouldn't describe that as defensive. It's not like he had, 6 ball winners in midfield, right? You have Winks, you have Eriksson, you had Ali, and then you had the front men, and you have wing back. So it's not that. It's simply that he's dealing in a situation where there's a lot of guys out. Now I'll agree, his last 3 stops ended very badly, and so he has to evolve. And let's wait and see if he does evolve before we consign him to the scrap heap of history.
I don't. What else we can agree in about styles of football, and we can debate. I don't quite understand the fact that everyone has to have the same philosophy to be deemed successful or not. At the end of the day, if he takes Spurs to whatever it is, a cup win or whatever club he's at, doing it the way he does it, that's still a success. Yeah. Just because he hasn't done it in a style that Guardiola or Klopp, or in fact Guardiola did at Barcelona, doesn't mean to say he's a dinosaur. It's the fact that there's more than one way to skin a cat, and everyone has to play a certain way. That's the entertaining way for the people, but not necessarily always the right way. Just the way. I mean, he was hugely successful. I mean, I think back to his time at Inter Milan.
Yeah.
Where he had huge success there, and it wasn't pretty to say the least.
Since Brian McBride is off to be the US men's national team GM, who now holds the distinguished ESPN FC titles of Best Dressed and No Socks, Just Shoes?
Brian was the best dressed.
Brian got a lot of compliments.
About what?
Just the way he looks, his handsome levels compared to others.
I've not seen these compliments.
No, makeup. The people in makeup would always describe him as the handsome one.
Oh, the makeup people?
Yes.
Can't do it. Well,
just jealousy.
Brian was too nice, that's what it was.
Stevie, you were very proud of your tie today?
Yeah, it's very shiny, isn't it? I was actually surprised when I sat down here when we came in the studio.
Yep.
I got a kick out of the shininess.
No, he did dress very well, Brian, very smart. And he always had his water bottle, didn't he?
I mean, he did dress very well. You were the first person to take a mick out of some of the jackets he used to put on.
No, I quite liked his jackets.
What? Yeah, right.
Well, wouldn't you? Don't you be
Don't
casting
use
aspersions?
that. I used to like his jackets. You were the first one that was all over him.
Joking, that was just for a laugh.
Oh, why?
Just look at you.
Yeah, that was just for a laugh.
Jesus God, sitting the Undertaker there.
In honour of the great...
Anyway, we wish him well.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Good luck, you'll need it.
In honour of the great all-powerful Zlatan returning to Milan and scoring goal today, which teammate was the most confident, outgoing and gregarious person you'd ever play with?
Outgoing and gregarious. We had a load.
Gregarious.
Gregarious.
Or gregarious. No, you're right.
I might get his glasses changed.
No, you're right. You're right. I'm wrong.
Aye. God, we had a lot. We had a lot of people who were gregarious.
Yeah.
Aye.
Outgoing.
I mean, there's plenty of them. It
John
was the
Spencer
ones that weren't.
Spencer.
John Spencer. John was...
Out of that Liverpool team,
Out
Stevie,
there.
which one
It
was
was the ones that weren't that probably were more noticeable, like Sir Peter Beardsley and.
That's not the question.
Well, if you listen to the answer.
Which teammate was the most confident outgoing? Definitely John.
So Stevie names the least confident.
Well, it's a lot easier.
Well, think.
I'm trying to answer the question here. It's hard to separate a load of people, to be honest.
Who's on that list?
Who's on that list?
Souness?
Gregarious.
Souness was confident, wasn't he?
Aye.
So he was super confident.
Yeah.
Aye. Brucey. McMahon. I mean, everybody had something about. Here's the best way to put it, right? Every single person, pretty much, had something about them that was different.
Okay.
But it was clear to see. So it's not like you walk in a restaurant